is here. Also, this cat is not mine. I don't know where this cat came from. So subscribe for Random Cat because Random Cat is very cute and just like the aesthetic of this, so cute. In this video, we are going to be talking about 25 books that are highly anticipated or books that you should be pre-ordering for fall 2025. This is going to cover cozy books, horror books, books with a dark academia setting, one historical romance book that I couldn't resist, paranormal books, one dark romance book that I also couldn't resist, and of course, romantasy, but make it fall. Farewell, kitty. So let's start off with cozy, and that is The Hearth Witch's Guide to Magic and Murder. This is a book by Kiri Callahan, and it is released on October 7th, so this is a highly anticipated book that you should probably pre-order. So this book, basically, what I understand it based on a little summary, is that it follows along this world where fae are at risk of being discovered. And so what they do is they actually reach out to this changeling who's been sentenced for like 500 years of nightmares, which that sounds awful, to basically help them figure out who is committing all of these crimes. And then we have another character, Saga, and she was left at the altar, and she is basically just trying to find a way to rekindle her like beliefs and the way she sees humanity. And she's a witch, and she thinks that magic is all just, you know, like spells, rituals, candles, and that, but then she realizes that there's way more magical stuff happening. There's the cat again. And so they end up forming this like unlikely friendship. I don't know if it's going to be romantic or not, but either way, they don't want to lose each other because this is like the first friend that either of them have had in a very long time, especially the person who was like sentenced to years of nightmares. So they're kind of working together, a witch and a changeling, to figure out who is committing these crimes and how can they protect the fae from being discovered by just like anybody. And that sounds really, really cool to me. I think that that's such a fun idea. I really love the different magical essences in it. It sounds like it's going to be cozy and also just kind of fun at the same time. So this is definitely on my anticipated books. I'm excited to read it. But I feel like I should mention as well that like these books do not have my stamp of approval because I have not read these books. These are just books that sound interesting to me. So if you do end up getting these books and you absolutely love them, that's going to be amazing. When these books come out, and this is not just this book in general, I just mean the books in this list, if the book sucks, please don't blame me because I have not read these books. I have not given them my stamp of approval. These are just books that I think sound interesting, that are perfect for the fall season. Next up in the cozy category, we have A Curious Kind of Magic. This is by Mara Rutherford, and this is coming out on October 21st, so very close to Halloween. So this is a young adult cozy fantasy kind of book, and it basically follows along two main characters. The first one is Willow, and basically she and her father have this shop of like trinkets and stuff, but everybody knows that what they're selling is fake and they are about to lose basically their business. But that is, whoa, where are that cat's going? That is until this woman named Willow comes along, and she has this type of magic that anything she touches becomes what it's supposed to be. And so I imagine she pretty much helps save the shop, touches all of these fakes and turns them into real stuff. But for Willow, this is honestly a curse because every single thing she touches, think of like the Midas touch, everything she touches. So I guess that also means like she can't even have human contact with people, or maybe they'll turn into something else. That sounds more like a curse when you think about it that way. And so the two girls end up working together to try to find, there's like this missing grimoire that basically I think will help them find the cure to this woman's curse. And they end up enlisting the help of, how it put exactly, frustratingly handsome printer's assistant. So there's some nice little romance stuff going on in this book as well, it seems like. And so what I think is really fun about this book is I've always been a sucker for those types of characters who have some kind of curse. Like when I think about my boy Jax from Once Upon a Broken Heart, I love that man with everything, and that he can't kiss anybody unless they're his true love and they die and he thinks that it's his true love. Like, oh, that breaks my heart every single time I think about it. And so this character Willow is similar in that way, of that like it seems like anything she touches like turns into whatever it's supposed to be. So I don't know what that means for her and like what that kind of looks like for people and relationships and friendships and romantic relationships, all of that. It sounds horrible. And so I'm really interested in what that kind of dynamic is going to be like, especially where there seems to be some kind of romance. I don't know if it's for her, if it's for somebody else, maybe the two girls get together. I don't know what it is, but I think that that's going to be fun. And it's just like this fun quest of these characters who kind of get involved in something bigger than themselves while trying to find a cure for this person. And I think that I do have pretty decent expectations for it. It sounds really fun. It sounds like a It sounds like a quest adventure, which, I mean, can't go wrong with quest adventures, right? Next up, we have the sequel for Legends and Lattes that's coming out on November 11th. And this is the book written by Travis Baldree. And I actually just read the first book, Legends and Lattes #1, and it was so cozy. I feel like I said the word cozy like 100 times when I was reading that book. And I also learned from one of my subscribers that there's already a prequel out. So there's a prequel to Legends to Lattes, and then there's Legends and Lattes #1, and then Legends and Lattes #2 that's coming out very soon. And so the second book, it doesn't follow along like Viv or any of the other characters. It follows along a character named Fern, which I don't actually know who that is. Maybe they're from the prequel. I don't know, but it says that she's a bookseller. I love books. And so she's a bookseller, and she is basically, I think she's just taking a break. Like, she's trying to sort out her life and figure out like what the heck does she want to do with it. And so she ends up, I guess, maybe like renting a space next to Viv's coffee shop, and kind of gets involved with, as the book had put it, ne'er-do-wells. So we'll see what that's about. And it's also just like, it seems like a story of self-discovery, a story where this character Fern thinks that changing your life, fixing your life is like one easy fix, but it turns out that there's way more to it, many different steps she needs to take. There's a bunch of different characters, I'm sure, like a found family aspect like we had in the first Legends and Lattes. I'm sure there'll definitely be crossover with Viv, like with the coffee shop, all of our beloved characters in the coffee shop, and we'll see where it goes, because it also talked about there's like this goblin bounty where I guess Fern and whoever her friends are just kind of like, they kind of get involved in that. Maybe they're trying to protect that. We'll see where that goes, but it sounds like a really fun, again, cozy kind of concept. It's always nice to go back into a world that just makes you feel like warm and fuzzy. Very similar to the Before the Coffee Gets Cold series. You have this like kind of main area, which is that coffee shop, and you have all these different characters, but you're following along different stories. I have a feeling that this book is going to be similar to that, where you're going to obviously see characters you know and love, but you're following along a different story in that same cozy atmosphere. And I have pretty good expectations for it. I did really, really love the first one. I have not read the prequel yet. I honestly didn't know there was a prequel until one of my subscribers told me about it, but I'm looking forward to this book. It does come out in November, so at least where I am in Canada, it's gonna be snowy by then, so it's still cozy. I know other places in the world it will be still beautiful in fall like this outside, so be one of those good books to, you know, just curl up with. I'm gonna get a nice coffee, I'm gonna drink it, I'm gonna make it like a whole vibe. Yeah, so I'm excited for that book. Okay, so the next book on our cozy list is quite a mouthful to say, so I'm gonna try and get this in one take, we'll see. And that is the Grimoire Grammar School Parent-Teacher Association. Got it. So this book is already out, so you can definitely go pick it up and read it, and let me know if it's any good, because this is obviously on my list as well. And it has honestly such a fun concept, and it's basically about these two parents, and their kindergartner gets bitten by a werewolf, and that means that now they're quickly introduced to the world of magic, because now they have a werewolf daughter. And so now they are basically forced to basically pick up everything, move, and go to this kind of magic school for their daughter, all these other kind of like magical kids, and they're like, what the heck is happening? Like, not only are we just like, you know, trying to deal with that back to like the first back to school ever for their kid, now they have to do it with magic and supernatural creatures. Like, that is a lot. And so I think it's just such a fun sounding concept. I personally don't have kids, but I feel like if you do have kids, this book might even stand out even more for you, because I imagine it's gonna be very relatable. But for somebody without kids, I still think it sounds fun, because like, imagine having to be a parent and you think you're already overwhelmed, and then you're about to get your kid to school, and then suddenly, oh, werewolves exist and all these magical creatures exist, and now you have to be part of this. Now you have to be part of this like magical society. Not only are you dealing with all of the school politics, now it's magical school politics, so you're really out of your realm here. And it turns out there's also a prophecy that is like, the world is doomed, and it seems to be related to their werewolf daughter. So that's a lot for these parents to deal with. And I am excited. This sounds like this could be a really, really fun, cozy, laugh out loud kind of book. It is already out, and it has a 3.88 on Goodreads, but I personally don't base any of this off of Goodreads ratings, because there's been books that I absolutely love and people are like, this book is garbage. And there's obviously the other way around as well. There's a book that I think is garbage and it has like a 5-star on Goodreads. So don't always base your opinion on ratings is basically what I'm saying. But if this book sounds interesting, you should pick it up, because just thinking about it, I'm just like, ooh, this sounds so fun. It's making my insides like The next book that we have, I feel like I'm just so excited about all these books, but this is A Witch and Her Dragon by Emberly Wideham. And this book is also already out. It is the first of the Coven Crest Academy books. They are all standalones, but they do take place in the same universe, similar to like Legends and Lattes. But this book is supposed to be spicy, while also being cozy, and it has witches and stuff. Like, it sounds really fun. Let me tell you about it. So the main character is a witch, and she basically is going through magic school, training, because she really wants to be part of the Kin's court. And the Kin turns out to be her grandfather, and he insists that she cannot become a knight by his side unless she has like a babysitter, aka like a bodyguard. And so one of his knights is like an elite bodyguard, and he's basically kind of the person who's introduced to her to basically protect her, so they get some forced proximity going. And let me tell you, they are fated mates, and she doesn't know, but the Kin knows. And he's a dragon shifter, and it's really hard for him to hide kind of this connection that they have, and he's like been trying not to this whole entire time, and like she doesn't even know. And so they spend a lot of time together because she's like training to be a knight, and she needs this kind of like bodyguard person, and they're trying to fight their feelings for each other, and they're just gonna hang out, and it's gonna be cute, and it's gonna be cozy, and he's a dragon. And I'm like, what do you mean he's a dragon? What does that mean? And then there's like danger, and like he has to hide his feelings from her, and like there's some risks for her safety, and I'm like, oh my goodness. Yeah, it sounds really fun. I don't know, I feel like this technically would fit well in the romantasy category as well, but it's also like in the cozy category, so take that as you will. It's supposed to be a cozy book, so yeah, just thinking about it, it sounds so good. All right, so next in the cozy category, with also it being a romance at the same time, this is Love's a Witch by Trisha O'Malley. And this is a book that's set in Scotland. And the town is basically Scotland's most magical town, and it follows along a cursed family, the McGregors, and the town mayor. McGregors are a family of witches, and they don't get into their, like, they don't really come into their magic until they're 25, but their whole family has been cursed, and so our main character is like, yeah, I don't want to be in that town, I'm never coming back. But on her 25th birthday, her grandma convinces her, and I think her sisters, to come back to the town to try to break this curse. And the grumpy mayor is not having it. He doesn't want these cursed McGregors in his town to basically mess everything up and ruin this perfect community that he's created. Plus, the curse, like, I feel like it like wreaks havoc a lot. It's kind of like the X-Hex, I would say, from how I understand it, where it's like just really bad stuff happens if that character is in the town, and so you don't want that in your town. Plus, the mayor has had a big crush on the main character forever. And so the mayor is like, okay, I can't have these cursed people, especially this cursed girl, in my town. So he basically is just trying to find ways to get her to leave the town so her curse doesn't like ruin everything. And then she's just trying to break this big curse that her family's part of. So yeah, that sounds really fun. It sounds cozy. It sounds laugh out loud funny. It just sounds like a good time. So yeah, this one's already out. So if you've read it, let me know if it's any good. And yeah, you should add it to your list if you haven't read it, because it just sounds really cute. Last but certainly not least, in the cozy category, we have A Witch's Guide to Magical Innkeeping. And this is by Sangu Madana. And this is the same author as the Irregular Society of Witches that I really, really liked. This is on my highly anticipated list, which, funny enough, like, it's already out. I just have not bought it yet, even though I really want to read it. That happens, you know. But I absolutely loved the Irregular Society of Witches. It was cozy, it was found family, it was magic. It was just such a vibe, and this is by that same author. And this basically follows along a woman who was a very, very well-known, very powerful witch, and she ended up resurrecting her, like, deceased grandparent and lost the majority of her magic, like, got kicked out of her guild, like, all of this really unfortunate stuff happened to her, and then now she's just trying to figure out like what to do with her future, how to restore her magic, like what does that kind of look like. And so there is this handsome man who's a historian who kind of gets involved in the story. And then obviously she owns an inn, and I think it's like a very magical inn despite her not having all her magic. And this historian guy, like, is probably the person who can help her solve how to get her magic back, but like he doesn't want to go in the inn for whatever reason. But like he also wants to help her at the same time. And there's that whole issue with like the guild kind of like watching her, and so she's trying to run a guild, trying to restore her magic. She's trying to run an inn, restore her magic, stay out of the eyes of this guild that kicked her out because, like, you know, she did some stuff that's probably illegal. And I imagine there's gonna be a found family aspect, and she's gonna realize, you know, like, you don't have to do everything on your own. It's okay to ask for help. People are here to help and support you, and you can support them, and you don't have to carry the weight of everything on your shoulders. So I'm excited to see like how that story is gonna go. I'm curious about like what the inn is like, what the characters are like, the coziness. Like, I have pretty good expectations for this book. It really does sound like, out of all the ones in this list so far, that I think it will be the coziest and the most magical. Like, it feels like that based on the summary and just like my prior experience with another book by this author. So yeah, I guess what I'm saying is that if you have to pick one book out of the cozy category, maybe pick this one if you want to make sure it's like cozy, because it's a bit more of an Ileana guarantee that this book will be more on the cozy end, because I know based on her other books that it will be cozy. But yeah, I'm really excited about it. I think it's just like such a cute sounding book, and I'm really looking forward to it. I'm definitely gonna read that one really soon. All right, next we have the horror category. Also, yes, it is raining, but I think that we're safe. So the first in the horror category, we have Hemlock and Silver. This is by T. Fisher. I've never read any of their books before. So this one though sounds really cool to me because it is like a horror reimagining of Snow White. And as somebody who is currently working on their Little Mermaid reimagined story, I feel like I'm just like, oh, I'm obsessed with these reimagines right now because, like, you know. But Snow White's not our main character. Our main character is actually a healer named Anja. And she's very well known for her very like unorthodox methods. And so because Princess Snow, I think she's a princess, is pretty much dying because of this like poison, this character is kind of called on by the kin to figure out what's happening, save the daughter. But what kind of happens, she realizes there's like this dark magic mirror that I think she even goes through. And inside of it is like another world, and that's like gives her even more info about what is causing the princess this kind of like health issues, because like she's tried everything to try to save this woman. And then she goes into like this dark mirror, like magic mirror on the wall, that kind of thing. And it turns out there's something really bad happening in there and stuff that's hidden inside. So I'm curious about how like the horror aspect of this is going to be attached to the book, because like, is it just going to be really scary inside the magic mirror place? I don't know, but I am excited, and I think that I am just like, I just love the idea of a horror reimagining of something, because I've been really into horror recently, and not just because it's like, these leaves are really falling on me right now, but not just because it's like fall now, but because I've just been really interested in it. I feel like I'm kind of diversifying the genres that I read because I'm so used to just like the same stories over and over that I'm kind of going into a different direction while still enjoying the other books that I like. So yeah, horror. So next up, this book is coming out September 23rd, and me and my friend are so excited. This is We Love You Bunny by Mona Atwood, and this is the prequel to Bunny, which I read I think like a month or two ago, and I loved that book. It really put me in for a whirlwind. Like, I was like, what is going on? I felt like I was losing my mind. It was really, really good. So I am a little bit like, I guess worried, like how are we going to do a prequel to this story? And so based on the description, it seems like Samantha has published some kind of book about her experience with the bunnies, and the bunnies are not happy with the way that they're portrayed. So then we get their side of the story. And that's all I pretty much know, to be honest. Like, Bunny itself was such a wild ride of like, I didn't know what was reality, and you don't really know what's reality ever. Like, it's just left up for interpretation. And so it's gonna be interesting, and I hope it doesn't ruin it, because like with the bunny side of the story, are we going to kind of ruin that illusion that the first book did so well, or are we just gonna be even more confused? I hope we're more confused, because I don't want to ruin the illusion. So although I'm really excited to read this book, and it is on my highly anticipated, like make sure you pre-order it, that kind of stuff, I am worried at the same time. So yeah, do you share my worries? Because I'm worried. Because like the first book was just so good, and I don't want that to be, I don't want this book to kind of diminish the amazing, mind-boggling journey that we went through in Bunny. Let's trust the author. I'm sure she knows what she's doing. I'm excited still, a little bit worried, like I said, but like I think it's gonna be good. She does write horror very well, especially psychological horror. Like, I was like turning the pages in Buddy so much. So yeah, I'm excited. So next up we have Play Nice by Rachel Harrison. I've actually just started reading this book, so I can give you a bit more of my perspective on it. And like, I bought it because like the cover is the most beautiful thing I've ever seen in my entire life. Like, I don't know what it is about it that's just so aesthetically pleasing to me, but I'm just like, oh, beauty. And so this is like a modern day horror story, haunted house story that follows an influencer, and she ends up inheriting a haunted house from her deceased mother. And so there's a lot of like complicated dysfunctional family dynamics in this story, but there's also the whole haunted house aspect and like how this house is being haunted by a demon, and the kids who grew up there, they didn't really believe that. They just thought their mom was like a really bad mother. But the main character, she was the youngest, so she doesn't really remember too much about it. And so she is gonna make this new kind of content for her influencer stuff of her basically redoing the whole house, fixing it, all of that. But there's like a demon in the house. Or is there? And so we get this really kind of fun idea where it's, you get a really fun haunted house demon story with a dysfunctional family, but you're also getting it like a modern day take with social media. And I feel like I haven't really read anything like that. And from what I've read so far, and I'm not too far into the book yet, I literally just started it before I recorded this video. So the writing of the book seems very good so far. The demon aspect is scary and it's very captivating, and the characters feel very real, and I'm excited to feel like I'm losing my mind reading that book. And so I would say that if you like horror books, especially haunted house books, I think you should add it based on what I've read so far. It did just come out on September 9th, so it is very new. It has really great reviews, but again, like, take that with a grain of salt. It's completely up to you. Reading is subjective. But from somebody who has read a little bit of it so far, somebody who's new to horror at least, I think that it's a really fun story so far, and you should definitely add it to your list. And I will have a video all about my journey reading that book, from like before I read it, while I'm reading it, and then when I finish it. So if you're curious about that, there will be no spoilers. That will be a video, so make sure you subscribe if you haven't already, because that is going to be a video that you can watch. The next book, honestly, it gives me the heebie-jeebies, even just the title of it, and that is The Possession of Alba Díaz. This is a book written by Isabel Canis. I've never read anything from this author before, but it does sound really interesting. It is available now if you wanted to read it. And it's basically, obviously, as you can guess by the title, about a demonic possession in like a Mexican silver mine. And it has a bit of like romance, it seems like. So this woman, she basically escaped from where she was, and then she ends up unfortunately getting possessed by this demon, and she needs to get, you know, like exercised, and it seems like the demon possession is a lot slower, more like a sickness, where she's like, she has hallucinations, she feels really angry, like she knows there's something not right, and she needs somebody to turn to, but the only person she can turn to is the person that she shouldn't. And this is a man named Elias, who is basically promised to her cousin, and he tries to avoid her as best as he can, because obviously like he's supposed to marry her cousin, but like he always notices her, like he's really interested in her, and he's the only person who can help her with this possession. And he notices, like, because, you know, he's always noticed her, and so when something's not right with her, like her being possessed by a demon, he notices this and he needs to help because he loves her. And it sounds really good, and I feel like it's gonna be really scary. To be honest, I'm always terrified of anything possession related. I blame the fact that when I was 10, I watched like Insidious and The Exorcist and all of that other really scary stuff that has given me nightmares for the rest of my life. I think I'm gonna wait until October to read this book, because like closer to Halloween just feels more appropriate for like a demonic possession book, and I hope I don't scare myself, but I probably scare myself with this book. But yeah, I think that sounds not like cool, because being possessed would suck, but you know what I mean? Like, it's an interesting premise about like love and demons. So yeah, I'm curious to see how that book is going to go. I've never read anything from this author, but it sounds up my alley, and thinking about it, to be honest, I feel like I'm like looking over my shoulder. I'm just like kind of scared. So the next book on this list of horror is The Macabre by Kosako Jackson. This book also just came out, and it follows along a painter with a supernatural gift. And anything that he paints, he's kind of put in like an essence of magic in it that relates to like eldritch horror. And he's a struggling artist, as unfortunately a lot of artists seem to be. And so that's why he's really surprised, because like this British museum reaches out to him and they're like interested in his work. And so he goes there because, like, you know, he needs money. And it turns out that they have actually put him there to see if he has the magic that kind of creates these paintings, but also the same magic to escape these paintings. Because it seems like with this type of magic, like when he's painting, he thinks that he's just like, you know, really visual, but I'm guessing that he's probably actually stuck in this like scary world. Like, I don't know what he paints, but I'm sure he paints scary stuff. And then he's able to escape. And that's probably what caught the attention of this museum, because they're like, how'd this man escape? And they all basically are cursed paintings, and they want him to destroy all of his work. And then I think that there's another side story about people also who kind of work for this museum, and their whole job is to go into the black market, go to all these shows, and basically find and destroy other magical paintings. Because I imagine, because they're magical paintings, the scary stuff in the paintings could probably come out and destroy everything. So yeah, that sounds interesting. It also has been labeled as LGBTQ, so that's exciting. So if you're looking for more LGBTQ plus kind of content in your horror books, this one seems to be that, and it sounds fun. I like the idea of like magical paintings, scary paintings, like that whole vibe, and I hope that it lives up because it sounds pretty good. Next up, we have The Devils by Joe Abercrombie. I've never read anything, but this is a highly anticipated book by a lot of people. I've never read anything, but I'm excited to read it because it sounds fun. And the idea is that holy work can require unholy deeds. And so we follow this character, Brother Díaz, as he is called to, you know, go do some of his priest work. And he ends up being part of this like crew of really bad people, like murderers, people who do dark magic, like actual monsters. And it seems like they're all tasked together to do something that is unconventional. And that's pretty much all the book talks about. Like, it is a bit ominous. It isn't too specific about like what that means. So I don't know really too much to expect, but the premise seems interesting, where you have a holy man who has to work with literal devils to achieve some kind of ultimate goal. So that's all I really know about it. I think the cover is interesting. It seems like it has vibes. Yeah, that's all, honestly, all I can tell you about it. I don't know anything else, but it's on my list because it looks pretty cool, as much as I can tell. Next up, we have The Graceview Patient. This is by Caitlin Sterling, and it is coming out October 14th. Basically, it follows along our main character, who has a really rare autoimmune condition that has put her in and out of hospitals like all the time, and she really just wants a cure for it, and that's why she ends up agreeing this experimental science that requires her to be a full-time patient in this hospital. And the idea is that as a full-time patient, she's basically agreeing to allow them to destroy a lot of stuff, like all of her autoimmune stuff, like cells, I don't know what else. But like as the treatment kind of progresses, she starts to feel really weird. There's a lot of hallucinations, and she kind of gets the feeling that there's something more sinister happening. Maybe she comes across something that's a bit like freaky, but it seems like it's like a psychological horror, because she doesn't know if this is actually like a real bad place, like scary, or if this is all just like a medicine induced hallucination. And I love these types of stories because like you're just like, you don't know what's real, and the character doesn't know what's real. And I can see this book being like a real page turner, that you don't know, like, is this actually happening? Like, are there mixes of stuff that didn't actually happen with stuff that did happen and is just like this really scary place to be? It's supposedly a very claustrophobic kind of story. So like I guess you just follow along this one character. It's kind of given Bunny vibes in the way that it's just one character who's like losing their mind, or are they? And so you don't know. And I think that that's really cool. And there's just something so creepy about a hospital setting, especially like an experimental hospital setting. And I don't know why that's so creepy to me, but it's so creepy to me that I'm like, yes. Like as soon as I saw the cover, I was like, okay, yeah, we like that kind of creepy, eerie setting mixed with like unreliable narrator, psychological horror, potential paranormal, like definitely up my alley. Is it gonna give me nightmares? I certainly hope so, because that is the point of a book like this. And it has like a mystery to it too. So yeah, I'm excited about this book. I think this is one of the ones that I'm really, really excited about, and I just want to get it now. Next up, we have Kin Sorrow by Joe Hill. And this book is coming out October 21st. This one is classified as horror, but it's like a horror fantasy because the main character, Arthur, and I think that this is like loosely based on like King Arthur, and he is at this school and he ends up owing some drug dealers some kind of like payment, and they kind of come to the agreement that he needs to do something horrible, which is steal rare magical books from the college that he studies at. And so he doesn't want to do that, and he needs to find a way to like not do this. And so he and his friends kind of come up with this idea of how not to do that. And that's basically to summon a dragon to do their bidding. And this dragon's not like a nice dragon. Like, I feel like it's more like a demon than a dragon, that they come together to summon this dragon to, you know, rid them of this issue that they have with Arthur. But what kind of happens is that they have to sacrifice somebody to this dragon every single year in order for Arthur and his friends to be safe. And that's where the horror aspect comes in. Like, again, it doesn't seem like a dragon. I know they're calling it a dragon, but to me it really does sound more like a demon. You're summoning this demon, you make a deal, and now you have to pay the price. Like, you don't want to lose your life, you don't want to do something illegal, well, too bad. Now you're stuck for the rest of your life having to sacrifice people. And what does that look like? Can they just pick somebody to sacrifice? Probably not. They probably have to do something really, really freaky, like take whoever they're going to sacrifice and bring them directly to this dragon demon thing to eat them. And they have to do it every single year. So it's like, that's not a fun situation. And so I can see this is where the horror comes in. This is where like the, ooh, what's gonna happen kind of like feeling comes in, and just like the desperate actions of people and the kind of consequences of making deals and bargains that you probably shouldn't. So yeah, I don't know how a book like this would end. Maybe they defeat the dragon, but like the dragon isn't really doing any, like they were like, hey dragon, we want you to do this, and dragon's like, okay, I need you to do this. Like, I don't want them to kill the dragon. It doesn't seem like he's like the bad guy, you know, but like he's the bad guy for the characters. But yeah, I don't know, but it seems interesting. And the last in the horror category, we have The Extra. This is by Annie Nejbar. Sorry, I think that's how you say it. And this book also just came out early September, and it's about 10 people who go camping, and when they go to set stuff up, there's 11 of them, and they all know who each other are, but they know there's an extra person, but they can't figure out who that extra person is. And that gives me the heebie-jeebies, to be honest. Like, I'm wearing a sweater, but I have like goosebumps thinking about it, because it's like, you have, like, how is there an extra person? What does that mean? What if, and like, if you try to like, what if you kill the wrong person? And like, what is the reasoning for that? Like, it's just like a creepy, creepy, creepy idea that I really like. And they're secluded too, right? Like, they're going camping. So you have this like closed, dark, middle of nowhere setting. They can't go for help. I'm sure their phones don't work either. Why do they remember each other? Why do they know all 11 if there's only 10 of them? There's a lot of like unanswered questions, which is obviously the point of it, and that's all the description you get for this book. So that gives me the heebie-jeebies. It is a novella though, so it is very short as well. So very short, sounds creepy, kind of reminds me of that movie with them and like the people in the elevator, and they're all trying to figure out like who's the demon. It seems like it's that kind of dynamic. So this sounds fun, creepy, all that good stuff. And that's all we have for horror. So let's jump into books with a dark academia setting to either pre-order or that are already out that you should read this fall. Let's start with The Raven Scholar. This is by Antonia Hodgson, and it is already out and is the first of a trilogy. And it's like a dark academia fantasy kind of story. And so basically there's been like 24 years of peace in this kingdom, and they're looking for a successor. And so 7 people are picked, and these 7 people are like the best of the best. They're scholars, they're thinkers, they're warriors, they're all of this, and they have been chosen, you know, obviously to become the person who's going to take over the kingdom. But then one of them is murdered and everything kind of gets thrown off the rails. And this is where that kind of dark academia vibe starts to come in, because the main character is a scholar, and she's basically trying to figure out who the murderer is, what was the reasoning for that, before these trials end. And so she has to basically involve herself into like the depths of the school, the depths of like maybe a society of sorts, go back, basically research like generations and generations of stuff that's happened. And she has a time crunch to do it. So you're following this character who's a scholar in this fun little setting, and she has pretty high stakes because I think it's like a fight to the death kind of thing, which if it is, I don't know why one person being taken out is like a big issue. I don't know, we'll see what that means. But if she wins, obviously she wins the throne, but if she doesn't, then she may, you know? So it sounds interesting, and it is high fantasy, so I imagine that it has a really well developed world, very complicated with magic systems and stuff. So I'm excited. I have heard that the magic system in this book is very unique and different, and so I think that that is cool. I don't know too much about it. I have not read this book, but I have heard a few things about this book already. So yeah, it sounds fun. It sounds like a really good, just like dark academia, trial, timeline, dark magic-y stuff vibe. Next up, we have Katabasis by R.F. Kwan. This book is also very new, just came out recently, and I have already read it, and I definitely recommend it. You follow along two characters, Alice and Peter, and they are basically academic rivals at Cambridge. And their professor explodes, and then they basically end up going into hell to find him so they can complete their like dissertation. And what you get is this dark setting of these characters who go into hell, and it's very, very inspired by Dante's Inferno. And you get all the different circles, you get these magical creatures. You have a really cool magic system too that's related to paradoxes, which is like really, I feel like it's really hard to explain, but like they have magic chalk and they do like their magic circles, and the magic circles relate to a paradox, and the paradox is the magic. It's very well thought out stuff. And you do get that vibe. It's like you get that dark set, and you get these like kind of like scholars. You have scholars throughout the entire book. I will say though, for me, I found the beginning of the book really, really slow, really dense, hard to get into. But once you get past that, it is really, really good. It's fantasy, it's magic, it has romance, it is smart, it's clever, it's fun, it's a vibe, and it's perfect for this season. So yeah, I enjoyed it. I ended up giving it 4 stars. So if you haven't already read it, definitely check it out. I do have a video all about my experiences reading that book, from like before I read it, while I was reading it, and after I read it. So there's no spoilers in that. So you can check that out if you're curious about that book and kind of my full thoughts on it. But yeah, it's definitely worthy of the dark academia spot in these 25 books that we're talking about. And last but not least, in the category of dark academia settings, we have Stephanie Garber's new book, Alchemy of Secrets. And this book comes out August 7th. I am fortunate that I do have an arc of it, so I'm going to be reading it very soon, and it's pretty short actually. And it's Stephanie Garber's first adult book, which I'm so excited about because I am obsessed with Once Upon a Broken Heart, and my only feedback that I ever had for that is that she's such a good author that I feel like she could totally do adult and not restrict herself. And here she is. I'm gonna pretend that she took my feedback to heart, and that's why this book exists. And so it's basically about a woman named Holland, and she is taking this class about like myths and urban legends and stuff that talks all about magic and that kind of world and that kind of society. And everybody thinks that, you know, it's just myth, that's what it is. But she's always believed in magic. And so what she does is she actually ends up, I guess curiosity gets the better of her, and she ends up tracking down this man named the Watchman, who can basically tell you when you're going to die. But he basically tells her, yeah, you're gonna die in like a day, unless she finds this thing called an alchematic heart. Alchemical? You know what word I'm trying to say? It's like alchemy, but it's like alchem, you know? And so she, and I believe the Watchman, end up going into the heart of Los Angeles and try to find this thing that was going to save her life. And they go through like a lot of like trying to solve stuff, you know, puzzles, mysteries, all of that good stuff. And she also doesn't even know if she should trust this guy. Like, is he even telling the truth? Like, did he just say like, hey, you know, like, yup, you're gonna die tomorrow unless you find this thing that I obviously want. So she's like, I don't know if I trust him, but like I also don't want to die tomorrow and risk it. And yeah, it sounds really cool. It sounds fun. It is dark academia, so I'm excited to see kind of how that setting is going to take place. Stephanie Garber is such a beautiful writer. Like, you can just feel the magic, and I have never read anything like the way that she writes. It's just my favorite thing of all time. she just finds such a clever way to give you that warm and fuzzy feeling that you get from magic, while also just like compelling characters, compelling storylines, like heartbreaking events. Like I love it. I love it so much. I'm so excited. I want to go read that book right now, but like I said, I'm reading Breadknives right now, so I can't read this book yet, but I'm gonna read this book very, very soon. And yeah, you should probably add it to your list if you like Stephanie Garber, because she is fabulous. Next up, we have historical fiction with like fantasy and all those other good vibes. This is the one book in this category that we're going to talk about, and I couldn't resist it. It sounds so good. And that is The Isle in the Silver Sea by Tasha Suri. This book is going to come out on October 21st, and it is an LGBTQ plus story that takes place in Britain. Now, I can't tell you about British history very well. I mean, I know a little bit, but I don't know what essences of historical fiction are being pulled into this story, so I can't talk about that. But what I can talk about is the premise. And so the premise is that the witch and the knight are fated to fall in love every single time, and at the same time doom each other over and over and over. And this is the same tale that's happened for generations and generations. Like if you are these characters, then you're bound to love each other, but also you'll be each other's downfall. And so what happens is that a witch of the woods and a knight end up developing feelings for each other, and they realize, oh no, we are the witch and the knight. We don't want our love to doom each other. And so they want to break the cycle, but because they're two women who love each other, there's an assassin who's basically been sent to destroy them. And so these two characters who just love each other so much don't want this fate of theirs to become reality. And so they work together to figure out, like, how can we end this curse for good? How can we end this cycle? And also there's an assassin, how are we going to deal with that? And so I think that it sounds really fun, and I'm excited to see like what kind of historical aspects are in the book and like what's kind of pulled from it. I love when you just like tie in the history to these books, so this sounds cool. I'm assuming that this story maybe is like a popular tale in Britain, I don't know, but I like the idea of it, and I like the idea of two characters who are not happy with what fate has in store with them, and they're going to fight tooth and nail against it because they don't want to doom each other, they just want to love each other. All right, now this category I've just put as paranormal because it is mostly about paranormal creatures. And so the first book we're going to talk about is A Road Trip with a Vampire. And this is by Jenna Levine. And last year I read her book, My Roommate is a Vampire, and I absolutely cackled. I love that book so much. So this book is not yet out, but it will be out September 23rd, so that's pretty soon. And I'm so excited about it because, like I mentioned, I really, really loved her My Roommate is a Vampire book. It was really funny. It was very well done. It was magical. It was playful. It was, at the same time, honestly kind of cozy too. And it was just like a really great time. And so there is another book from the same author with a similar kind of idea, but this is like a road trip with like different characters and stuff. So this book follows along a woman named Zelda, and she is a witch who is just so tired of vampires that she's vowed to never deal with them again. But that is until a vampire named Peter with amnesia shows up, and he's trying to figure out who he is, what his life was like, who his friends were, any of that. He doesn't remember anything. The only thing he has is this like notebook, and it's very like cryptic. And so I guess he and Zelda end up doing this road trip together to try to recover his lost memories. And that's pretty much the premise of it. So it sounds really fun. It's like a romantic comedy, paranormal story where you have a witch who's lived for hundreds of years and you have a vampire who can't remember who he is. And I guess the dangers that come with that too, right? Because it's like, he is still a vampire after all, and she's still a woman with blood. So I think that that's gonna be an interesting idea. And I'm such a sucker for the amnesia idea when it's done right. Like, this sounds like it's going to be done right, where it's like you're trying to piece together like a character and who they were and everything. And I'm so excited because her writing is so fun and her characters are fun. I like the way she does vampires, and I can just see this book just being laugh out loud funny. I love the vampires and how just like old timey they are. Like, they never really adapt too much to modern day, and I just find that funny and entertaining. And I'm excited to see, like, obviously there's going to be a romance that blossoms between the two of them, and they're going to figure out like who they are and who Peter is and all this stuff. So I'm really excited for this book, and I wish it was released already because yeah, it's going to be good. And last but certainly not least In the paranormal category, we have Mate by Ali Hazelwood. This book is coming out October 7th, and I am really excited because I absolutely loved Bride. It was so well done. It was a werewolf vampire arranged marriage kind of story. And so this one, although it doesn't follow those characters, it is still set in the same world. And so it follows our main character, Serena, and she is an orphaned, packless, like hybrid werewolf. So she's like half human, half werewolf, and she's never really belonged to anything or anyone, or never really had a place to call her own, or like a pack or anything like that werewolves, you know, pretty much thrive on. And so when she kind of, I guess, like admits that she's a hybrid, it's supposed to heal some kind of rift between like the different kind of paranormal creatures, but instead what it does, it actually puts a target on her back, and now she's not even safe. And there's also this whole mate aspect of it. There's an alpha from a different pack, and he is her mate, and they both know it. But the thing is that she doesn't have the same feelings for him, so he'll always protect her silently, but never really make a move. And so when her enemies, like when this target has been put on her back, she knows that he's really the only person that she can trust and she can turn to, but she doesn't love him. And so it seems like it's a story of a woman who's been running away from everything her entire life, and then like everything is starting to catch up to her now, and she needs to make the decision and stop going against fate. Which is funny I say that, right? Because like in The Witch and the Night, it's all about going against fate and what fate has in store for you. And so it seems like in this one, like she's been trying to escape that, but like she will have to figure out what to do or risk, you know, unfortunately. So yeah, I'm really excited about it. I really love the way that Ali Hazelwood writes. I really think like the past year or two, she's really grown even more as a writer. She's always been a good writer, but she's just like really really up there right now. And I love the way that like she's done fantasy stuff and the way that she's done different paranormal creatures and stuff. I'm not really into like the kind of like kinky stuff that she had in Bride with like the werewolves, but if that's your thing, like it is, I imagine, also going to be in this book, so there's always that as well. Next up we have dark romance, and we do just have one that I could not resist putting on this list, because you know there's so many amazing books that are coming out or are already out around this season, but I am only doing 25 because it is 2025, and so let's talk about the one dark romance book that I've added to our list today, and that is Tourist Season by Brianne Weaver. This book is coming out September 23rd, which is super soon, and honestly, you should probably pre-order it because it is very like everybody really wants to read it, including me. And so let me tell you about why. So this book follows along two characters. We have Harper, who lives in this town that has an unusually high body count of, you know, murders and stuff that happens, but she doesn't really care about that. What she cares about is her garden. She wants her garden to be picturesque, beautiful, perfect, and she doesn't want anyone to ruin that. And she's also helping take care of her elderly mentor who's unfortunately starting to lose their memory. And the tourists who kind of show up here, you know, like if they're not good people, she kind of use them as garden compost. And so our other main character, Nolan, comes in, and it's the 1-year anniversary of a hit and run accident that basically ruined his family, and he's here for revenge. So he shows up during tourist season to basically annihilate Harper. But Harper's not gonna go down without a fight, obviously. Like, I mean, she uses people as compost, and this man is also like, they're gonna like kind of fight each other, you know? But as they start to get to know each other a little bit more, he realizes that she's not like a really bad person, despite, you know, compost issues. And so they actually end up doing a truce because there's an amateur true crime person who ends up coming into the town to try to figure out why all these people have been dying. And so these two characters are like, okay, we need to work together for a sec, stop trying to kill each other, because we don't want to get caught for being the person that this true crime person is trying to investigate. And it's supposed to be a slow burn romance, so we'll see them obviously like start to fall in love, but obviously this is dark romance, so this is like, I know it's a weird concept, your two main characters are literal killers. That's dark romance for you. So it's gonna be interesting because like if this was like not dark romance, like the true crime person would be the hero, but in this case the true crime person is the villain because these characters don't want to be caught for murdering a bunch of tourists and stuff, you know? So that's pretty much the idea of this book. And it's supposed to be funny too, which I think is very kind of weird to think about because it's like it's a very unique plot. It's dark. Yeah, I feel like dark romance always makes me like I don't really know how to explain it, but if it's your thing, then it's your thing, and if you like it, you like it. So if you like dark romance and this isn't on your list already, you should probably add it, because like it sounds really, really interesting and I'm really excited to read it. So yeah, that's Taurus season. And the last category that we have is romantasy. Now, there are obviously books that I've talked about that do have that romantasy element, but with the main stories being more romantasy focused, that's where these two books come in. First up, we have Wild Reverence by Rebecca Ross, and this is a prequel to the Letters of Enchantment series, which if you've seen any of my videos before, you know that I am so obsessed with Divine Rivals, Ruthless Vows, which are part of that series, and this is the prequel. And I'm losing my mind. I love those books so much. Her writing is incredible. The setting that you get is great. The magic is perfect. And this is a prequel that is about a goddess who basically is the person who created these like magical letters, like the magical typewriter stuff. And she falls in love with a mortal, a human. And I'm losing my mind. So the goddess's name is Matilda, and in this kind of world, when it comes to like gods and goddesses, oftentimes what happens is that these gods and goddesses kill each other to steal their magic. So she kind of gets involved in this stuff really, really early. And so she has like these magical letters and stuff that she writes. And like 10 years ago, there was this boy who basically dreamt of her, and they became friends through their dreams and stuff. And like he was just lonely and he just wanted a friend, and like they become friends like in the dreams, but then he actually writes like a letter to her and she doesn't answer it for some reason, and that makes him really upset because he was like, I thought we were friends, like this kind of stuff. And so 10 years passes and he's become like this cold, hard, kind of mean person, and he's pretty much forgotten about his friendship with Matilda. But then one of her letters ends up showing up through his bedroom window, and I guess they start to talk to each other again, and so they end up becoming friends again. But there's this whole thing about like, you know, the gods and the goddesses like killing each other and stuff, and like she wants to solve that because like that's not a way to live, and you don't want more wars and stuff. And so there's a lot of like sacrifice that is involved, and she has to basically learn how to be vulnerable and like let herself be loved, but also like there's a bunch of risks associated, obviously being like a goddess and like a human. And so I'm really excited because like you get more of the magical side of this, and really more just like the origin story of how do these magical letters work, how does the magical typewriter work, because like with Iris and Roman, they had their magical typewriters and they could talk to each other and stuff. So in this prequel, I'm so excited to see like how all of this came to be, and it's gonna be so fun. It is already out, so And last but certainly not least, number 25 on our list of the 25 books is Alchemized by Sen Lin Yu. This book is coming out September 23rd, and the cover really reminds me of One Dark Window. It's very similar, and I really like this cover. So this book is interesting because it follows along a woman named Helen who has memory loss, and she was part of this like rebel resistance, and there were like basically all these necromancers who used, you know, dead people to help win this war, and Helen is captured and imprisoned. And when they look into the records, it says, like, it kind of talks about how she was like a healer, but she wasn't really like that important. But with the memory loss and stuff, people are like, there might be something suspicious about this. And especially because like she was a promising alchemist, like her powers were suppressed and stuff. So they're thinking like, okay, there's something kind of weird about this. And so they're looking into it. They're like, okay, is she insignificant, or is this actually like a secret plan by the resistance to, you know, pull one over on us? And so to uncover those, she is basically sent to this like necromancer guy, and she's now trapped in his estate as he's trying to like uncover her memories. But at the same time, she is trying to figure out like what the big secret is in that area, because now she has access to stuff that she didn't have access to and being part of the resistance. So like she's obviously lost memories, but it seems like she's on her own kind of mission despite that. And it's a romantasy, so I'm guessing that they probably fall in love. But it seems really interesting to me because like I do really love like memory loss stuff, especially if it's like important and works for the story, and this seems like that kind of thing. And it also has that like romance vibe and like the fantasy vibe of like necromancers and war being done with like necromancy and alchemy and stuff. I feel like it might also have dark academia vibes. It kind of seems like that, but two characters trying to like be like, I know you're up to something, I know you're up to something, kind of like Heartless Hunter, where they're trying to like outmaneuver each other while trying to figure out stuff at the same time. It's kind of given those vibes, so I'm really excited. I want it to be September 23rd just seems to be a special day. There's a lot of books releasing on September 23rd, including Primal of Blood and Bone by Jennifer Armentrout, which is not on this list, but I really want to read that book because it's the last book and it's finally like the continuation of like Poppy's story, but I digress. We are talking about Alchemized right now. And so Alchemized sounds really cool. It's gonna have magic, it's gonna have undead, it's going to have romance, and it is adult, so I imagine there will be some good spice in it as well. And I do believe it is just one book, so that's gonna be fun. I've never read anything from this author, so I do have pretty high hopes. I think this one is pretty high on my list of, I mean, all the books on this list. Obviously I want to read all of these books, but this one I'm really excited for as well. And it's just gonna be a good time. And there we have it. Those are the 25 books releasing or already released for fall 2025 that you should probably pre-order or go ahead and just read right now because they sound really great. Again, I haven't given my stamp of approval on the majority of these books because I have not read them yet, so please don't blame me if you don't like these books. I have no idea, I've not read them yet, but I will be making videos about every single one of these books when I do read them. So if you're interested in watching that, go ahead and subscribe if you haven't already because I love talking about books. Definitely recommend me some books as well. I'm in such a fall mood. I love it so much. It's such a vibe. It's my favorite season of all time. So yeah, that's pretty much it. Thank you so much for watching. With that, I'm going to wish you warm wishes and fish kisses, and I'll see you in the next video. Bye!